Susan B. Anthony was a pioneering American social reformer and women's rights activist who played a crucial role in the women's suffrage movement in the United States. Susan Brownell Anthony was born on February 15, 1820, in Adams, Massachusetts, to Daniel and Lucy Anthony. She was the second of 7 children, and her family was deeply committed to social justice and equality. Anthony attended a local school in Adams and later enrolled in the Deborah Moulson School in Groveland, New York. However, due to financial constraints, she was forced to drop out of school and work as a teacher to support her family. Anthony began her career as a teacher in New York and later became involved in the women's rights movement through her work with the Women's Loyal National League. She traveled extensively throughout the United States, giving speeches and advocating for women's suffrage. In 1872, Anthony was arrested in Rochester, New York, for attempting to vote in the presidential election. Her trial drew national attention, and she used the platform to argue for women's right to vote. Collaboration with Elizabeth Cady Stanton. Anthony's partnership with Elizabeth Cady Stanton, another prominent women's rights activist, was instrumental in advancing the women's suffrage movement. Together, they founded the National Woman Suffrage Association, NWSA. In 1869, Anthony and Stanton established the NWSA, which aimed to secure women's right to vote through a constitutional amendment. Published The Revolution. Anthony and Stanton published a weekly newspaper, The Revolution, which advocated for women's rights and suffrage. Organized the 1878 Constitutional Convention. Anthony and Stanton played a key role in organizing the 1878 Constitutional Convention, which aimed to revise the U.S. Constitution to include women's suffrage. Anthony continued to advocate for women's suffrage until her death on March 13, 1906. Her legacy is a testament to her tireless efforts. 19th Amendment. The 19th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution, ratified in 1920, granted women the right to vote. Anthony's work laid the foundation for this landmark legislation. Susan B. Anthony House. The Susan B. Anthony House in Rochester, New York, is now a museum dedicated to her life and work. Susan B. Anthony Dollar. The U.S. Mint issued the Susan B. Anthony Dollar coin in 1979 to commemorate her contributions to the women's suffrage movement. Is it not time that we, the women of this country, should be recognized as citizens and granted the right to vote? Susan B. Anthony. The day may be approaching when the whole world will recognize women as the equals of men.